Welcome, not to the void, but to Blackstone Fortress. I am Iratolin Alisnistra Kencheville, also known as the Scorpion Mother. And today we are going to be going through and viewing the structure that me and my people have currently been living in for about the past month or so. This used to be a prison that we eventually got the deed for after clearing it out on a mission for a city. Turns out it had been used as the prison aspect was actually more of a cover-up, and it was being used to experiment on illithid prisoners. Now, however, it is the final stronghold of the Drow on this plane. So, out front we have our first outbuilding that we crafted through use of our druids and other spellcasters. We made ourselves a greenhouse, garden really, but for sake of actually having the plants grow in this environment, we went ahead and made it a greenhouse in No Man's Sky. Yes, there will be a little bit of flicker between meta commentary and in-character commentary. I apologize if it's confusing. Over here we have the livestock pens where we keep those that we are growing and raising and feeding off of. For some reason, I can't get animals to actually stay in this pen, but in this particular pen, in this particular simulation of the pen, but here we are. The next outbuilding, which you saw over here, is the creator space that we did, or no, maker space, as I believe the surface term. Apologies, I'm still getting used to some of the vocabulary that the surface dwellers use. Over here we have the jewelers and metalworking workshop. Lots of lights, but we have there's a need to ensure that we can see what we're doing whenever we are doing such fine detailed work. This was not one of the first structures that we constructed after moving in, as we needed to focus on other things such as the therapy facility and other necessary outbuildings such as the washrooms, but the creator space was a priority after we got the farm done. And here is the wine distillery that I personally promised to an individual who has since gone on to become my liaison to the, for lack of a better term, commercial class, or the merchants in those of similar status. She made a very particular kind of wine known as the Spider's Kiss, hence her last name. And we even got our druids to make her a nice little wine cellar down here, with barrels of the wine that she's been able to make already. Next up on our little tour is the miscellaneous crafting room. There are various tools and tables and containers set up for all sorts of different craftsmen and craftswomen of all different sorts of practices. Over here we have the stone cutters, more stone sculptors area. They are the ones who made most of the outbuildings thanks to their use of fabricate, so they gave themselves a little bit of a fancier building. Wasn't exactly part of the blueprints, but no one's really going to complain, given that they have done so much to help take care of us. Now, I may have noticed that downstairs there's an archway over here, but there's not upstairs. That is because this leads to the mage area. Over here we have our circle of teleportation, letting us transport to our allies. And over here we have the evocation and weapons testing facility. Now, we have been needing to do a bit of weapons testing and weapons research, ensuring that we have tier-based weaponry that will work against the infected. So, we have been using this. We made ourselves a little bit of a bunker so that we could try out various things while ensuring that those who are experimenting are kept safe. Opposite here we have our biological experimentation unit, which, as you can see, has a variety of plants, both from the Underdark and elsewhere, as well as a few samples of actual organic life, well, organic creature life, so that we can better see what survives, what we can emulate proper thriving circumstances for underground, and what we might need to place elsewhere. Upstairs, we have a few more different workstations. Immediately to the left over here, we have the artificing workshop. It is a bit cramped, but not too unfamiliar to the workshops down in the Underdark that we are used to working on. And it has a variety of different experiments going on. I need to go and check in with Dravaki and Winathe to see exactly what is going on, but nonetheless. Here we have the Illusions workshop with a variety of different, someone has some sort of project going on right there in the center. Over here, as you can see, we have the enchantment workshop with some fun decorative lighting going on at the moment. Over here is a simulation area where we can go in, and it has been specifically reinforced so that magic can be used within this room safely without harm to those outside of it. To use some parlance that I've heard about the Mage City nearby, that is the fuck around and find out room. Now, we have one more outbuilding to get through, and then we'll go into the actual structure itself, which was here whenever we first arrived. As it was, you can maybe tell based on its name, Blackstone Fortress is in fact made of a particular naturally occurring dark black stone that is incredibly magic resistant, which is part of why it has taken a lot of effort for us to make any adjustments and any alterations to any of the structure that already existed. In fact, we've only created 2 additional doorways compared to what was there originally. One second, let me just spider climb down this wall. Ouch. All we have done is added 2 doorways to exterior walls, and that's it, because otherwise we worried about threatening the structural integrity. Now, through here we have the therapist's office, which we created because we needed somewhere to help us unlearn the literal aeons of abuse and misleading that Lolth subjected us to. So we put this building together, and with the help of our allies in Anahu, we have managed to create a relatively effective therapist office. Improvements are still being made, nonetheless, it works very well, and we've had great progress. Downstairs is the individual therapy session room. Upstairs is the group therapy room. There's, we have the conch, so to speak, that is whoever's holding it gets to speak. Currently it's sitting in the therapist's chair. And then over there for more of relaxed group sessions, we have giant beanbags. And yes, for those who are very familiar with No Man's Sky, those are in fact concrete bags, but they look like pillows, so we're using them. Alright, over here, they're not exactly outbuildings, but they are structures that we created. We did put in a series of aqueducts, as you can see, that are used for directing water from the nearby mountain range, so that we can direct it into the structure as needed. And on its way to the storage containment center, or area I suppose, we do have our millstone that it powers. Now, as far as the actual fortress itself, it is quite a structure, and we have repurposed some rooms, but for the most part we have been able to simply use the structure that we found whenever we arrived. Arriving, we have the directory, which has all of the layout information right here, written in common. Here is the security room, which was here whenever we found it. As you can see, little room for the armorer to give out weapons as needed. Then over there is the barracks. We'll get to see that on the other side. Down that direction is, I guess actually we'll go through here first. So down here, this used to be the visitation center, but we have reshaped it a bit. One of the, I think, only major internal structures that we've actually altered. It is now, one half is a storage facility, and the other is the lounge area that was originally for the more middle-class drow, but now it is used by everybody. Originally, upon first moving here, we were advised by our psychologists to make sure that everybody had their own areas to socialize for sake of ensuring that no one felt threatened or uncomfortable using the socialization areas because of not knowing the individuals there. Now, because it has been a month and there's been lots of trauma bonding going on, everyone more or less uses the various areas as they please. And here used to be a holding cell, a kind of introductory cell for those who are going through the prison. Now that we have made it our first stage infirmary, and we have converted another room into a much more thorough medical facility further in. Here's the armorer's room, as you can see. Lots of racks for weapons, various crates for various sorts of armor and other utilities that might be needed. Down here we have the barracks, where the security guards sleep. Over here we have just another storage room, and then the kitchen's through that direction. I'm going to go down here. We're going to take you through the hospital that we have, show you the base of one of the towers and maximum security. Then we will loop through the other first part of this floor before going upstairs. Now this is all woodcraft because we had to use our druids use wood shaping to construct it, but this is the actual more longer term medical facility that we have managed to cobble together. As you can see, every room is fairly simple, fairly narrow, but thankfully, given that we are used to the tunnels, it's not much of a problem, but it is useful. This formerly used to be one of the it used to be the warden's room, which was then adopted as the residence for one of our party members, but said party member has kind of fucked off and left us, so we now turned his room into a medical facility. In here is what used to be the maximum security prisons, which is why the rooms are so minuscule in size, but they have proven to be very good for those who wish to be more secluded in their residence. There is one cell that is kind of particular importance, or it appears to have been for prisoners of particular importance. Now just a larger family stays in there. A rather reclusive lot. A couple of the nobles who wanted a bit, well, ex-nobles now, who wanted a bit more room from having to interact with others. Now, all of the numbered rooms this direction are all identical. They all have shelving, a bed, and chairs, and then 2 beds. These are for the elderly or the infirm who don't need to be in the medical wing, but do need a place to stay that is easy to access. Now in here, these are temporary bunks, and they have largely been taken over for use by the various young adults and teens that are part of our refugee nation. I don't remember all of their hobbies, but I believe this one, I believe they normally hold like book club in here. They're a bit of the rowdier bunch. The ones that stay in this one they have a couple different games they enjoy playing. And then this one down here, I don't know about the others, but this particular, I forget if he's a child or if just a young adult, but very technologically adept. Now, this is the courtyard. It is a partially subterranean courtyard, as this facility was built into the side of a mountain, but it is mostly out from beneath the rock. We did have a stage erected so that I could give speeches and otherwise address people who are, whenever we need to have large meetings. Now, this edition is a bit of more of a somber tone, and this is the grave marker for one of our party member, Venustiano Carlon, who was one of my close friends who passed away after being abducted, and we only later found him in the process of becoming a mind flayer. This is the skull of this is the skull of the enemy that was responsible for doing that to Venustiano. Now, I may notice that there is a glass ceiling, but all of it is covered by panels. That is because, for those of you who are unfamiliar, the drow are very light sensitive. So, we have rigged up this system so that when those of us who wish it so desire to, we can view the sky and the stars, or, in more rare occasions, the sun, but on average, we can also use it to cover the skylight and keep it nice and dark. Now, here just leads to another what used to be a cell block, but that is now a residential wing. Over here is what... honestly, this is a bathroom that has been fallen into disuse because there are much better restroom facilities in the structure elsewhere. So no one really uses that, because that one was quite literally just a hole in the wall for prisoners to relieve themselves in. Ignore the sounds, we have some arcane tests going on. Here are one of just the larger restrooms that have been constructed in this space. Several stalls and some wash troughs, nothing too particularly spectacular. Alright, let's swing back through here. We'll show you the cafeteria, which is a large amount of seating for... This is going to hold a very large number of us. I don't remember who. Clearly we need to do a slightly better job of picking up our plates and cups afterwards. We did install a little bit of a bar for morale purposes, just to help people keep their spirits up. Pun not intended. Over here, one of the few edits that we did make to the structure, we did kick out this door and add a proper showering facility, as there was only one, and it was only for... There's one upstairs for the staff, versus this one being much more accessible to anyone who's on the ground floor, and also being able to handle multiple people showering at once. And here we have the kitchen. And here we have the kitchens, which, as you can see, a very large scale for keeping up with the prison population, which has been very useful in our needing to feed 300 plus drow every day. They even had a small little herb garden, which we have made great use of. And here is an interesting little room that has been enchanted to keep foodstuffs cold, which has been very useful in preserving their life. We're used to having such things down in the Underdark, but it is very nice to see that some of the surface dwellers have created such things on their own. Now let's see, we have a couple more rooms down here on the first floor, and then we'll go up to the second. For those of you who are wondering about, like, some meta reasons, like, how many objects are placed in here? Several thousand. There are over 9,000 objects placed in this space. This is another one of the restrooms. As you can see, we have the stalls and the wash troughs at either end. To our left is just another bathroom. This one's smaller, a bit more private. A bit more rough, but more private than some. And here is just an office. We have this one handling just transfers, complaints, ensuring that everyone is on the same page. A communication station. This leads to just another residential wing. And this is my little brother Wenethe's workshop. Brother not by blood, but brother by bond. This is his workshop. He is our gunslinger, so he has a wide variety of interesting devices that are a mix of the more black powder based and the more manual crafts, but also some arcane crafts. In the center, he's turned his island into a place where he has mostly been using it for his scroll work. As you can see, he has some in the center console there. This door is the enchanted door, which is part of a spell that he and my mentor Dravaki have crafted, which lets him move to their extra-dimensional workshop, and then through that we can also exit directly to Anahu Mage City. Yes, that is actually the town's name. I don't know why they felt the need to include the fact that it's a Mage City within the title of the name itself, but that is their choice. But it lets us move from Blackstone to the extra-dimensional workshop to Dravaki's workshop in Anahu Mage City. Wenethe also does have a room on the top floor for whenever he does not wish to sleep in his workshop, though if he does need or want to sleep in his workshop, which honestly this more translates into, I've already took my trance for the night and I come downstairs, find he's passed out on his desk, there is a bed that I made sure to build into the wall, which can fold down if necessary. Now, over here we only have a couple more rooms left. We have the commissary room and the common room. both of which we didn't really need to do too many edits to. And here you can see the commissary, and there's, chair for the person currently manning the station, and the cabinet for them to pass goods over, as well as many storage things for them to pass things along and keep foodstuffs that are shelf stable. Here's one of the lounge rooms with a projector for watching our holographic images. It's not something that many of the races on the surface seem to have, but thanks to our technology being a bit more advanced, we do have hologram technology due to our being a bit more advanced. Here's just another door that leads to a cell block, nothing super much. Now, for those of you who are wondering, this is a teleporter. Yes, for sake of me ensuring that the DM's maps actually conformed to the reality of No Man's Sky, I used teleporters because I couldn't make stairs steep enough for keeping the maps in exact one-to-one for what blueprint I was given. But the teleporters are the one concession I have made to accuracy on this entire endeavor. As much as possible, given the aesthetic of No Man's Sky. This used to be it was called the Good Behavior Room, and essentially it was a torture room, both psychological and otherwise, that they put people in as a sort of worse solitary confinement. This is a rack that the current inhabitant just sleeps on because the Bribus is odd like that. Currently, if the weird eldritch things weren't a giveaway, our resident mind flayer is currently living in that room. This one was strategically placed so that those inside could hear the goings-on outside, but couldn't actually see or talk to their fellows. And here is the gymnasium, which has been quartered off into a couple of different sections. This segment is still used for just the generic gymnasium purposes, for exercise and other physical activity. Part of the physical education courses for the school, which is next door. This was an orphanage at first, because we are a nation of refugees, but since then all the children have been adopted, so now this is mostly used so that the children can have a large sleepover place to go to, and there's even a bed in the corner for an adult chaperone to ensure that nobody gets hurt whenever it's groups of younger children. Now over here is the nobilities or ex-nobilities lounge. It might seem a little bit nicer at first, however, as kind of a lesson in humility, we did not have our enchanters soundproof this room at first, so that the nobles actually had to hear the sounds of life around them. But they have since relaxed and learned to treat their fellows properly, and given that none of our enchanters are amongst their number, since they have made friends with those of previously lower standing than them, the enchanters decided that, alright, they've mellowed out, they're cool now, so that room is now soundproofed, as are most of the other rooms that we have constructed. Now this whole section was constructed, but it was done using stone shape and fabricate, so that's why it is so finely crafted, but not made of black stone. This is the school that we made with different boxes for different classes for them to keep their materials in. We have the bookshelf where the teacher keeps many things for the students to read, as much as we've been able to borrow from Anahu Mage City. Then, the teacher's desk with a giant projector and a handy little hologram and a podium. And each of the students, each of the desks can hold a fair number of students. And if they want to do, simultaneous reading on large, more comfy seating, they have these nice beanbags that they can rest on. Now going back this direction, this used to be some sort of large office, which I have now taken to be my council chamber, which, as you can see, we have a couple different magical screens that we can use to communicate and share information, as well as various tier-based weapons that we have been using to fight the infected, which have been proving quite useful, actually. The tears are a special sort of liquid that I have learned how to create, and since my rebirth into the form that you see now before you, I have been able to use to fight the infected, and our researchers have found a way to turn it into various forms of liquid and gas-based weaponry. This is a security checkpoint with these large magical scanners ensuring that nothing dangerous is going through. Then on the other hand, this is a door that leads back into the gym. And then here we have a bunch of different bedrooms. I believe they used to be staff bedrooms. Now they're for, more individuals. All of these are identical, so they're not too varied. I swear. I have the plus 18 to diplomacy. I promise I'm good with my words. But we don't need to go through all of them. Over here is just storage, nothing that we need to particularly do or take a good look at. And here's what previously was the staff restrooms and the staff showers, which is why we had to make our own showering facility, given that we didn't have any actual bathing facilities beforehand. And here is where the staff used to take their meals and also cook their meals, but since this is mostly just used whenever an individual wants to cook a meal for themselves, which isn't used very frequently, but it is here for those who need it. And here's a very small, modest library. Has a librarian's desk, tables for reading at, and lots of shelves with books. I also do realize that I emulated shelving on the first floor very different, or in the schoolroom very differently as far as bookshelves go, but I hadn't yet thought of that idea once I completed that room, and I didn't feel like redoing it. So, there we are. This is another relaxation room. We have a bunch of games over here, tables to play them on, and a larger table if needed for some of the more elaborate games. Over here, above the warden's office, we have 2 more activity rooms. I believe over here they're playing some sort of game of dice. I don't know, they have lots of their little miniature figurines and the funny little map, and they use this funky little dice device for determining different numbers. Apparently that was a critical failure based on my understanding of how that system works. Over here, just, some couches and some shelving for, various just relaxation items. And here's one of the more physical activity rooms. It's, a simple form of table-based sport where they hit a small little ball back and forth, trying not to hit the net in the middle. I don't quite recall what it's been called. I've been very busy, so I've not quite been partaking in all of the activities. I've mostly been involved with the school and the therapy section, but it's been apparently much fun for most of my people, and for that I'm grateful for. Now, each of these bedrooms is different and unique. I don't know if they're necessarily all that interesting, but they are all different and have different setups within them. However, room number 7, which I just want to show off, is Winnethe's actual bedroom, where my wonderful little brother comes and rests whenever he is not falling asleep at his table in his workshop. He has a whiteboard for writing down all of his ideas, a little podium for taking notes, and all sorts of different equipments and lockers for his various accoutrements. Next up, we have one of the guard towers, which the base level is for storage, and there is a trap door here that leads to the guard room, the security room below. It doesn't get used often, but it is there. Now, this tower is home to one of the more unusual denizens of our little family here. The summoner known as Katanishat, the tiefling, and their elder demon guardian stay here. As you can see, they have a bit of a more camping vibe and aesthetic. But this poor child, I really hope they can just relax soon. They're only, I believe chronologically they're about 9, but due to mistreatment, they're about the same mental age as my future son, Osima, and he's about 27, 30 or so. I believe that's about 7 years old in human years. And I might note there's not a bed, and that is because the poor little thing is very paranoid, and so he had Guardian break down one of the walls and put his bed and his toys and most important things up here behind the wall. Thankfully, he doesn't. Apologies. They don't really have much to worry about, and mostly just get to be left to their devices or their playmates, because they often will have fun and play with Asima or the other children in the tower. Now, the final 3 rooms are my personal quarters, as well as those of my family. Now, I need you to keep this on the down low, but I do intend to marry my current partner, Fanaska, and then also we are planning on adopting the child that Fanaska's been taking care of for a while, Asima. And Asima, I have already made him my heir on paper. There is a sealed royal trust document that says, should anything happen to me, Asima is the one who will take over. But that is sealed in secret, and nobody knows about that other than Fanaska, Winathay, and now you. I'm trusting you with this information, Lord Zildfrin. You're one of my most trusted advisors, so I hope you know how important it is to keep that knowledge safe. Now, as you can see, we have, a couple different windows on different floors for looking out. This one is mostly because Asima likes the sunlight. This first floor is mostly Asima's. There is a door that leads out to the balcony, which allows the view. Note, this is not the actual view from Blackstone. This is a very nice view, but the view from Blackstone is more open plains and some more remnants of mountains that are the base of mountains. But this was the best mountain I found for constructing this project. And here is a restroom that we had constructed. We have both, the one that Fanaska and I use, and the one that Asima uses, because he's still very small. And then, a sink and a mirror, and, a wash basin. Over here is the little table that we play with Asima at. You can see he still has his toys out. I'll need to tell him to remember to put things away. It's not our highest priority, though I will admit. Then he has a nice little house that I used stone shape to make for him, a little playhouse. I can't fit in there to show you what's inside, but he has fun with it. He has his little doll down, his little plushie in his bed. His fun little nightlight, and I let him draw on the walls because I know it's odd and a bit weird and scary, so I want him to feel safe. Here's his closet. Oh, I did forget to share one room downstairs, so I'll do that soon. This is Fanaska and I's quarters. There's the bedroom that we share, the shelving that we put all of our books on, our little nice relaxing wind-down couch area. This couch is very good for cuddling, just so all of you know. Our closet with all of our gear and clothing inside of it. This is where I tend to sit whenever I want to look outside. As you can see, I've pulled the heavy curtains back, so I have a nice little stool set up, and I'll kind of keep eyes on things, and if I have anything, I'll use this to let others know. And we even have our own little kitchenette up here in our soft little dining area. Hasn't all been easy constructing all of this, but thankfully we have some very skilled crafters who have their magic with them. So thankfully they were able to take care of all of the crafting needs that we needed in this place. Now returning back to the ground floor, I have one last room to show you, which I legitimately just kind of forgot about in showing you everything else. So you can see these rooms that are just the cookie cutter rooms. This room over here in the corner. This is I don't mean to toot my own horn. I realize how arrogant this sounds, but I am a goddess in the making, quite literally. I don't know what deity this used to be to, but this is now a temple to me. We haven't decorated it too much because we don't intend to stay here forever, but I did use some of our resources to make this more comforting for my people, change the wall color, though that was an endeavor. The statue of me, which also doubles as an artifact that lets me commune with my people from far away. and some just, kept the lighting level low so that it was a comfortable room for my people and both comfortable and comforting whenever they seek an audience with the Scorpion Mother. Because I love them so very much, and I just want all of my people to be safe. Now, unless anyone has any questions, I'm going to go ahead and return us outside for one last look at Blackstone Fortress before we go ahead and end this tour. This is just a nice little area to walk around in, nothing particularly special. It's a very good community area to just kind of hang out, chat, feel some earth underneath your hands if you don't quite feel like going outside into the very painful sunlight, which is still very, very painful for most of us. But otherwise, just a nice little room. That is where we often hold many of our meetings and community gatherings. Oh, though I did forget, we also do have, down along here, they're no longer with us, but for a while we had a druid friend, and Droond, as well as the children, worked on making this very pretty mural along this wall. It was mostly Droond kind of just telling the kids to have fun and decorate the wall, so it's mostly just splashes of random color, but it's very adorable, and I think it's very important. Important enough to share, certainly. I do hope all of you have enjoyed the tour. I know I have had quite the experience putting all of this together, ensuring that moving in was alright. There is another structure about a mile that direction where we built a secondary structure for those who, once I revealed the truth about Loth and how she's been a traitorous, manipulative bitch and gaslighting us for aeons, decided that they still wished to go with the gaslighting deity and moved out. That's fine. I hold no ill will. Once we had our farm up and running, I had our stone sculptors go and make them a secondary fortress, and now we work collaboratively on the farm and upkeeping the external systems that we both share and benefit from. This has been a tour of Blackstone Fortress, home of the Drow for now. My name is Empress Iratolin Kencheville, also known by my deity title as the Scorpion Mother. Please do not forget to take care of yourselves and one another, because kindness is one of the most important things that we can share with one another. I'm eternally grateful for all my supporters over on Ko-fi: Darius, Sarah Senpai, Sapphic Seraph, Kylie Coven, and Space. If you'd like to help support the channel, join the ranks by following the Ko-fi link in the description below. There, you can choose a variety of either one-time donations or subscriptions, which will get you the following benefits: adding games to my list of things to play, getting to choose cosplays for me to make Let's Plays in, access to the subscriber-only Discord server, and much, much more. As always, don't forget to hydrate, masticate, and medicate.